my perspective, no matter your race, no matter your age. On my perspective, don't even worry about your fear. Come on and bring your thoughts. Let's talk about it. What's going on? Let's bring our thoughts together.
And we're live.
Hi, and welcome to My Perspective Mondays. Let's say hello to the cast. It's so nice to be here. You know what? We got a great show for you tonight. But before we go on, we just want to know that you are more than welcome to be a part of our live chat. Just click on the live chat and give your comments.
Somebody's
we're
got feedback. Go ahead.
Yes, give your comments on the show. And so we'd be glad to have you to ask your questions, and we will glad to have you part of the show. So tonight we're going to be talking about what narratives should we do away with. So this is very Hi again. This is My Perspective Mondays, and so glad that you're here tonight. We got a great show for you, and just remembering to remind you that you can live chat. Just click on the live chat and give your comments, ask your questions, and we really invite you to do that so you can be a part of the show. So tonight we're going to be talking about what narratives should we do away with. All right, what narratives should we do away with? So we want somebody to go on up in there and express what narratives that we really need to do away with. All right. All right. I'm gonna go for Mark. Come on, Mark.
Okay, we going here? I hear music.
We're good. It's been one of those wacky Mondays in the streaming world. I was watching Tim the Tatman today, and his stream kept messing up. Watching another person, and his stream kept messing up. Sometimes it just happens where the stream is just weird that day, but I think we're rocking and rolling.
The excitement of the post, you know what age. Narrative, I can't say the C word.
Weekly market updates.
Well, first when it comes to mind, all people with money are dishonest.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Needs to go away.
do you think that one's rooted out of jealousy?
Right.
Well,
Not
Mark,
everybody.
yes.
Certainly.
It goes back to the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet. And I'm not being all biblical. It's just human nature to be envious.
You can't be biblical and say I'm not being all biblical.
Well, I mean, it's a guide for living. I mean, but you call it coveting or envy, or the term now is social justice. And what it means is basically that you have something that I don't, and therefore you should share it with me. And you got it by being dishonest.
Now that's one part, but what about the ones who aren't jealous? It's just that because you're having a hardship in your life, now you have spite because someone is having a more comfortable life, and having that money too. So there's that side as well. I'm not saying either one of them is good, but then there's also that side. Because you're not doing that well, I should. What's that got to do with me? You know?
There are plenty of dishonest middle class and poor people too, by the way.
Yes,
They're just not as good at it.
people.
That's true.
I
Well,
almost feel like we have to
So there's mine.
listen, like we should be conscious enough where
where's
we
that coming?
look to
Oh, it's Lita. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lisette.
Okay. Well, what about Jay? What about you, Jay?
Personally, I'd say that the narrative that we need to get rid of is that all parent-child relationships need to or are the same.
Really?
Sort of like how parents joke with their kids a certain way and the kids joke back, versus as to the outside looking in, you may think that they're being disrespectful back and forth.
I can understand that.
Well, yeah, not understanding somebody else's family dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Just because someone allows their kid to do something that you don't allow your kid to do doesn't mean they're a terrible parent. They may just have a different way of parenting. Everybody doesn't want to slap their kid across the face because they asked them a question, So,
Well, conversely, John, the other side of that is every parent does not want to put their kid in the timeout chair.
that's true. Yeah.
You know what Martin Lawrence said about that?
What?
And I hope I can get away with this one, all right? But I'm just kind of quoting Martin Lawrence. He was asked about the timeout thing, all right? And he said the timeout thing. He said that's something white people invented. He said that in my family, we took time out. You took time out to pick your teeth up off the floor. That's what you took.
It's a good joke that he said, but actually, when I used to do my research, it's funny. Back in Africa, we didn't beat our kids. We actually had our own version of timeout. Like when the boys were in trouble, they weren't allowed to practice hunt, and do things that they were trying to do to be manly. They essentially were grounded, and the women weren't allowed to do chores. And I know people might go, "Well, why would that be a punishment?" Well, they didn't have TV and electricity way back in those days. So, how do girls get excitement out of the day? It's working with the other females and that social engagement, and they weren't allowed to do that. A lot of people learned that corporal punishment through whatever means you want to say, whether it's slavery or when Christianity came and it spare the rod, spoil the child. My grandfather gave us a version of timeout. So timeout's different for everybody. He didn't sit us in a corner, but he did make us sit down, and then he would come talk to us about what we did. And that hour-long lecture was very painful, but I got a lot more out of that hour-long lecture than when my mom just used to hit me with a switch and tell me to go to bed.
But I'm okay with it. We didn't use the term timeout, but you did something. Your parents said, "All right, go to your room and shut the door." Okay, and just you need some time by yourself in isolation for whatever reason, whether to calm down or to reflect on what happened, or let me come talk to you later. They didn't call it timeout, but in some ways it was effective. It depended on the situation, but sometimes an instant response was needed. Not a whack across the face necessarily, but.
I'm being crazy.
Jay brought all this stuff up, so it's his turn.
Someone said it's more entitlement than dishonest. Interesting. That's interesting.
Okay, I feel like we're a little off today. That beginning messed us all up. We're a little off today. We gotta get back. We gotta get back. Okay.
Okay.
I remember. I remember my mom, speaking about the spanking thing. I remember my mom and dad told my sisters, not to be out, dating these guys and be flirting with the guys. They was teenagers and stuff, so they're trying to keep them focused in school. And they found out they was somewhere over there, doing what they weren't supposed to be doing. My daddy went and got in the truck, and he said, "I want y'all to meet me to the house by the time I get there." Okay. And it was funny because they had to run across the field to get to the house. And believe it or not, they made it before he got there in the truck. And I mean, all you could just see is stuff flying everywhere. I mean, hind parts being whooped. That's, oh my God, what is going on? What is going on?
Did she say hind parts being whooped?
I said, I don't know what was going on. He even grabbed me and stole. I said, I didn't do anything. Oh, he said, oh, wrong one. He just went crazy. He went crazy. Me and my mom was laughing at
That's
him.
the crazy process of everybody getting whooped just because one person did something bad.
They
No,
used
it
to
was-
do that back
was
in the
all
day. It's
three.
like you got a whooping by association because you and Weenie are friends. You're both getting a whooping.
Oh yeah.
It was
That's called
fun.
Whooping by association.
That's called vicarious punishment too.
Yeah. Yeah. Vicarious. Yeah. That's
All right,
the word.
Mark, we didn't have all those fancy words back in the hood, okay? So I would have got a whooping for saying that. Why the hell are you saying shit I don't understand? You're getting a spanking.
It was funny. It was really funny. What about you, Jay? Do you have any narratives that we need to do away with?
The narrative that if I don't like somebody, you can't mess with them either. That best friend code thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
'Cause my little sister is like that. Love her to death and everything, but it's just like, I'm cool with this person. She's just like, I can't stand that mother. I'm just like, what did they do? Your beef is not my beef. But then she looks like she's gonna stab me in my back if I go talk to them. I was like, oh my goodness.
You know what?
Mhm.
Go ahead, Lisette.
I can understand up to a certain point because I mean, you really, I don't know. Let's read what Clarence said. Is that like saying all politicians are dishonest? Is that the case?
Well, that was from the reference about the rich people, but that thing that Jay was just talking about, I think it really depends on why you don't like that person. Let's say me and you are really good friends, and there's a friend that there's a mutual person that stole money from you. Now you don't like him. Well, I'm your friend. I don't like him either. But if you just don't like somebody because you don't like him, because everybody's not meant to get along, then that's different. If you don't like them, because you ever met somebody you don't like them and you don't know why? I've met a couple people.
I've heard that a lot though.
Yeah, I've met a couple people in my life. They just rubbed me the wrong way, but it was nothing specifically that they did.
Well, they should stop.
Really?
They should stop rubbing you for one thing.
Okay, Rodney Dangerfield. He's doing the whole Rodney Dangerfield said, if love hurts, you're doing it wrong.
They come rub me all I want to.
Wow.
All right, get the baby oil. Mark wants to be rubbed. Okay.
Get the Vaseline.
But Jay, so I really think it depends on now. There are some people that do some really disgusting, dishonest things. Like your sister, for instance. Not your sister does dishonest things. If my sister had a boyfriend and I became friends with them, but then they broke her heart and cheated on her several times. No, I'm not going to be friends with that person.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It came to that situation because she did date somebody that I did not like because I knew the people that he associated with and I did not like them either. But I'm just like, hey, if he makes you happy, that's on you. But as soon as he gives you a problem, it's going to hit the fan.
Oh, the plot thickens. You started out saying it was her that had the problem.
It went both ways is the issue. I'd be friends with somebody and she'd be like, you can't talk to that person. Why not? Because I don't like them. Why don't you like them? If you ask me one more question, we fighting. Okay.
Yeah, they're related. Yeah, they're definitely related.
I remember it was kind of hard for me to see how that some of my friends, when me and my ex, when we broke up, how can you still be friends with him? I even though I did not really question them about how they could still be friends, I still had it in my mind. How could you really be, down on him like that, not knowing what he did to me? How could you?
Let me see if I can get lead in here. You know who usually says that though? You know who usually says because I'm friends with several of my exes, and the people who always ask you that, they're not friends with any of their exes because all their relationships were terrible. So people usually look at things through their own prism, right?
Exactly.
You said you don't like your father, and you're talking to someone who deeply loves their father. They're looking at you like, "What are you talking? How do you not love your father?" It's a whole different scenario on this side.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's how I feel. What do you say, Lita? Lita, can you hear us? Let's see if we can get you in here because I know you're having a storm and it's really bad up there.
Man.
Monsoon season.
she's inside the Beltway, right?
I think so. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lita. I muted you by accident. Oh, and then she was finally ready, and now she's frozen.
Well, I think the narrative
Go ahead.
should stop pushing is that we should stop believing it's, you know, like salespeople. Like if somebody's checking your car, I've heard some recent information that kind of like, I don't know, tipped me off. Whether it's, I don't know, your doctor or like the news, like there's so many things that maybe you shouldn't take firsthand that there's nothing wrong getting a second opinion on. And I feel like sometimes when I bring getting an opinion on certain people are just like, oh, well, that's, I don't know, reaction that, not the reaction that I think, and I feel like we probably should cite our sources and stuff like that. We shouldn't believe everything off firsthand. Like deeply investigate if we truly believe in something.
Can I just make sure I heard that right? Is that she's saying that we should not believe everything we hear, more or less? Is that right?
Yeah. Check your.
Oh, okay.
Check your
Hey, look,
source.
done.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't. The TV news and whatnot, I don't believe it. So
Like, you know, wrong.
I don't believe the second opinion most of the time.
Not well, Mark. Okay, look here, college professor. We get it. Okay,
Okay.
Now, Mark
I'm
will
looking-
pick
Remember that everyone has a
Looking
core.
right at you.
1 week. Mark is cheerful guy, and the next week he's back to grumpy old puss. I can never figure out which one I'm getting. I can
It's
never figure
it's
out which one I'm getting.
It's a personality disorder of some sort. I haven't got to sort it out yet.
But
You
I
got
do.
SPD?
I do
Minute,
agree
minute.
with you. I do agree with her that that's one thing you learn in college. I remember doing it when I was trying to get a doctorate, and I must have got like 70 sources, and I turn it in, and the professor goes, "No, you didn't do an exhaustive search," and I'm like, "What?" So I went back and got like 20 more sources, and she's like, "No, you didn't do an exhaustive search," and I came back I'm gonna shorten it up about 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, "What are you looking for?" She said, "You have 140 sources, and not one of them disagree with you." And I was like, "Well, I thought the whole point was to validate my." He's like, "No, you've got to find someone that did." She goes, "What if you spent the next 8 years on this doctorate, and then you find someone who disagrees, and they make more sense to you than the ones who are agreeing? You just wasted all of that time."
I agree, John. I just think she should have told you up front and not have you going back. But
That's
No, I
one
mean,
thing I
No,
but
shit.
she had a good point, though.
Wait, before you start getting all antsy, Jay, I'm the one it happened to, and I'm fine with it, Jay, before you start getting all angry. Okay.
no, it's just the narrative is the thing.
Look, yeah, everybody has their own teaching method, and it worked for me. What she did worked for me. I don't know if she did it with everybody, but she was one of those professors that didn't I almost said profess because I couldn't find the word teacher, doesn't teach everybody the same exact way when she's talking to you individually. And that was more effective to me than, "Hey, John, find somebody who disagreed with you." That would have been the shorter route, but I actually had a little respect for the way she did it.
Yeah.
Because I kept finding sources. When I came back with those 20, I could have found someone that disagreed with me, but what did I do? I was hell-bent on finding more people that agreed with me.
Well, that's a mature attitude on your part. I mean, most people wouldn't be that mature about it. I remember, John, one guy that I had a student I taught once. He turned a paper in, and there was a blank page or a half page or something like that. In other words, he did a very sloppy job of not looking at what he turned in before he turned it in.
Mhm.
And I zinged him. Okay. I completely forgot about that until years later. This guy who became a police officer said, "You taught me the best lesson anyone's ever taught me when you gave me that F for that mistake I made."
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to learn the hard way. It's not exactly what you're talking about, but that approach now of taking somebody to the woodshed more or less is not very popular. Now we're all about feelings and all that good stuff. So
Not everybody, but I get
No.
where you're going.
I like what Clarence's question about all politicians are crooked. I think that's a good one to talk about because if you don't mind, Lisette, I'm stealing your thunder here, I suppose.
Go for it. Go for it.
Well, I think I think part of that narrative comes from the idea that politics is the art of compromise. And that's why some people who have very strong religious beliefs have a hard time in politics, because it's all about compromise, and one does not compromise their moral principles. But I think very often when we say politicians, we think the people in Washington, the people in the state houses and all that. But I go back to my childhood, my younger years, where I worked hand in hand with judges, district attorneys, court clerks, city commissioners. And these are people that I knew. And while they had to do some things sometimes they didn't like, they were basically honest people. Now, they weren't trying to enrich themselves or anything like that. They weren't crooked. So I think we tend to lump all politicians into, say Biden, Trump, Harris, Pelosi, people like that, when there are lots of politicians who are decent people.
Well, I think because it's low-hanging fruit for most people. And well, a lot of people like lazy arguments. A lot of people don't want nuance in their argument. They're like, get that out of here. I want to do the lazy argument. And sometimes when I had to realize that about politicians, I also had to think about information. You can be running for office, whatever office it is, and you can have these things you want to do. And then once you get elected, you get a lot more information that's given it that you're privy to than when you were running. And sometimes you look at that information, almost like I said with that source, and the information you provided say, hey, that idea I had is not going to work now that I have this new information. So what happens when you don't do what you said you were going to do? You're branded immediately a liar. Bam. And that's what happens sometimes,
Interesting. Some of them just flat out lie. They really do just.
Well, they're still.
It doesn't matter the facts. Yeah. They just lie.
But I'm talking about people like I'm thinking of a guy that I knew that was on the local school board here, which is an elected position, and this guy was honest as the day is long, and he wasn't in it for the money. He made very good money. He wasn't on a power trip. He genuinely was civic minded, and was trying to do what's best for the community. No, but we forget about politicians like that and tend to think about the people that are always in the news, and as John calls them aptly, low-hanging fruit, and they're easy to criticize.
Because like Nicola said, that they just lie. We generalize, just lump them all in together. They're all lying, they're all lying. But we don't do that in life towards people that we want to support, right? We've seen pastors and reverends in the news doing some stuff they ain't supposed to do, but we aren't going to lump. So when I saw somebody the other day on one of these YouTube videos where a pastor was doing something he wasn't supposed to do, they go, all these pastors, and here we go again. We're lumping everybody in together.
And the Catholic priests.
It's not all of them. It's not all of them.
No. And it's not all politicians. It's not all politicians. It's not all cops. It's not all.
Somebody else said it.
But it's not all of them, but the ones that are doing it, we need to say that they are, and not try to cover up what they are. If they're not very good judges, or if they're not very good pastors or politicians or whatever, we need to say you're not very good, and don't take up for them when they're wrong. When they're right, take up for them when they're right. Make some distinction.
Well, see, I'm going to see Veil. That's what I'm talking about. So Veil of Shadow says, well, the problem with politicians, again, we're saying all politicians, because all politicians don't do that. As we said earlier, is that they make promises they can't keep. It's not always about I'm making a promise that I can't keep. That's your job. If I have a thought or a promise I want to make because I think this will solely work, and then I'm provided new information that says my promise is not going to work, so what do we rather that person do? Follow through with the promise, and then now the economy in your towns is suffering for it because I got to keep that promise up? Or do you do the adult thing of, hey, I'm going to have to fight this in a different direction?
Well, John, also sometimes circumstances change, because I remember, I'm going back here a few years, but in 2000, George W. Bush said that he would not engage in nation building when he became president. And then 9/11 happened. And so he had to change his priorities. And so whether it was a good thing or not.
You mean President Dick Cheney? Go ahead.
but I mean, whether it was right or not, he had to change his focus. He had to more or less break that promise because circumstances changed, or at least that was the argument, at least.
Well, sometimes, just like, Kiana was saying, sometimes there's nothing wrong with coming back and explaining yourself and have some type of communications and just making people think that you lied,
Well, they do that
Explain
sometimes,
it.
but everybody's not going to listen. As soon as you start talking about why you did something, again, that low hanging fruit, as soon as you say, well, we can't do liar, and then deaf
Saying
ear.
goes, rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, liar.
We're not very forgiving.
No, we're not. We want to be. Everyone wants to be forgiving, but we don't want to be easy to forgive others, and that's just
Interesting.
not. I don't want to say all of us. I just did the thing I said a crime of, but I know a narrative I think needs to change, and I'm gonna say it. All white people ain't racist.
That's
Okay,
it.
now let me make sure I got it right.
Sorry, do you mean
All
to
of them are.
What's the false narrative there? Because you had a double negative.
Huh?
Mhm.
What's the
You had a
double-
double negative. So which one are you saying?
Which one? All white people aren't racist?
Is that true or false?
Well, all white people aren't racist.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
That's what I'm saying. But it's a narrative. All
Either
white.
Either
all
that
white-
or turn my microphone off.
There are people who believe that all white people are inherently racist.
I don't know what the
I
term
don't believe
racist
that.
means.
No, that's something that's learned. Nobody is inherently racist just off the
Mhm.
bat. You learn that. That's passed down from generations.
I remember. Okay, I'm gonna say a word. You can say. I don't care if this is demonetized this video, but I can't remember what comedian said that. But he agrees with you, Jay, because he said, "Ain't no 2-year-old ever called me nigger." So it's
Wow.
learned from somebody.
It is a learned behavior, And all black people are not nasty and lazy. All of us are not lazy and nasty
People
and
are
don't
people.
want to learn and just want a handout. That's
course
not
not.
true.
Yeah, of course not.
Narrative.
I think to me, I think it's I think I've said it before on this little podcast that
Mhm.
it's a sad fact of human nature that we tend to focus more on our differences than we do our similarities.
Yeah.
And race is one that's just obvious.
Yeah.
We can
Low-
look at someone and tell they're of another race, but
No, Bill, we are not saying it louder for the people in the back. Moving
no,
on.
I said it loud enough. They got it. Well, Mark said that low hanging fruit gets us every time.
You
But
know
I
what?
have a question for Keone, though. Back to his statement, I said this, but he didn't respond. He didn't really hear me. I want you to define the term racist.
Oh, really? We're gonna do
Yes,
that?
really.
Huh?
I want you to define it.
Can you get out of college professor mode for 2 seconds? We have
Okay.
2 minutes until
1,
we-
2. Okay, now back in.
Hold on. We're gonna circle back to this because I don't
A
want
good
to.
question.
No, because I don't want to lead into Weenie's weekly market update on racism.
We can ponder about it.
Let's put a pin in it.
All right, let's go through all this racism. No, it's time for Weenie's weekly market update. So you know what?
It's a perfect segue for Wall Street, though.
So you know what stock is rising? Racism.
You never know.
About the inhale and the exhale from the past week in your weekly market update, please and thank you.
It's in it today. It's in it today.
Wait, what's in it today?
Breathing in, breathing out. We're gonna do some breathing exercises.
Uh-oh. That means that we lose a lot of money today. Is that what we're
Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness.
No, this is a good day today.
One
But
cake.
we're just gonna get into market analysis. That's all.
okay? All right. Well, Lisette will ring you in whenever she's ready, and we'll keep
All
on
right.
talking.
This is good. I mean, we're going to continue that thought when we come back. Now we're going to have a Weenie weekly market update. All right.
Okay, music.
Hello, welcome to Weenie's weekly market update, where I give a recap on what happened to the stock market last week and then what I'm looking for this week and this month. So let's get right into it. The recap from last week was we were talking about how the market likes to move in wave patterns. So remember, we're breathing in and we're breathing out. And I'm just going to draw this on the SPY. Again, the SPY is the S&P 500. Most people's 401ks are going to pretty much match the performance of the SPY. But look, we breathe out, we breathe in, breathe out, we breathe in. We just went sideways. We breathe out. We took a big breath in. And last week I was saying, hey, the market is looking like it wants to drop. It's because we had just breathed out. You never usually want to be buying when we're breathing out because you just don't have a lot of margin for profit. So the market sold off aggressively last week. It was a big down week last week. And that was just because of the overbought nature. Again, it is just breathing out. And it also has to do a little bit with seasons. Again, we're talking about how September and October are generally lower performing months for the overall market. It doesn't mean that the market has to drop, but it's just more likely to drop. And I'm even wearing some sweatshirts, some Weenie Trades gear that says Happy Halloweeny. And this year we got Spooky Ween Halloweeny gear. So I always love Halloween season, and the markets might not like it this year. So seasonal, sell-offs occurring right now. We talked about SPXS. This is an inverse ETF, meaning this goes up when the market goes down. If you want to hedge your portfolio, as they say, basically meaning if you buy SPXS, it kind of like locks in some of your 401k or portfolios because this goes up as your portfolio is going down. But remember, you could potentially get some taxes if you sell your portfolio. So that's why you'd want to do something like this. So just some, options, some opportunities, SPXS, when we were talking about it, was about 18 and now it's sitting at about 21. So if you bought one share of SPXS, you made $3 per share. Cool stuff. So that's kind of what happened last week. We had the Jackson Hole meeting where our Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, he's basically adjusting the monetary policy throughout the United States. And he was basically saying, yep, the Federal Reserve is going on course with our original plan. And the market just hated it. That's this big red candle that you see right here on the daily time frame. If we quickly zoom in over here, we can see the big drop that occurred. And this was what they call a rug pull, meaning imagine just standing on a rug and then you get the rug pulled underneath you and you flop over. That's kind of what happened to the market because it kind of happened out of nowhere, but we were prepared for it, right? In Weenie's weekly market update. So basically the Federal Reserve is just saying, yeah, we're going to be raising interest rates. And what that means is companies can't borrow as much money to perform their business as well. So profits start to go down, revenues go down. Investors are like, well, I don't want to invest in this. So they sell their stocks, and selling of stocks causes stocks to drop, nothing else. And it's just important to remember that the market's kind of like the weather. So think of like the weatherman. He forecasts the weather, whether it's going to be sunny or whether it's going to be raining. Me as a CMT candidate, a chartered market technician candidate, I'm a market technician. So I'm kind of like the weatherman for the stock market. And so think about it. Would you be mad at the weather if it rained? You wouldn't be mad at the weather. You might be a little bit mad at the weatherman if he said it was going to be sunny and it rained. But think about it. If you're going to be mad at the weatherman for being wrong, you should be happy with the weatherman when he's right. And we forecasted rain and it rained. So moving forward into this week, basically what we're asking and thinking about is the market going to continue downward, much downward, or is it going to stabilize a bit? Remember how we were talking about how if we go sideways, that usually favors trend continuation. So remember in this big move over here, we moved up first. That was the trend, up. Then we stayed sideways. So the next leg higher was most likely up. Right now, we've moved down. We went sideways, went up a little bit, and then went down. So now we're going to decide, are we going to go sideways and then lower, or are we going to go sideways and then start to curl higher? Based off my chart information, it looks like we might go sideways, maybe sideways to slightly higher, but then over the month of September, we're still more likely to drop and dig into these lower numbers. So a little bit more market pain ahead for the next month. However, I'm not expecting any sort of crash, just a typical bear market type of downtrend. And a quick trading tip is when you're trading or actively trading like me, or even just taking a trade for a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, follow the trend. The trend is your friend. Think of an object in motion tends to stay in motion until acted upon by an equal or opposite of force, right? Newton, let me know if I botched that or not. Something like that. It's similar to the market. When we have trends, they tend to continue until they reverse. And a trend is dictated by higher highs and higher lows. And so that's where I'm starting to draw those trend lines. A downtrend is lower highs and lower lows. So we have to assume that we just started went from an uptrend to now a downtrend where we're making lower highs and lower lows. And we have to expect that'll continue until acted upon by an equal opposite force, which would be buying and demand, and that could push the market higher. So what I'm getting at is that you can trail stop. So let's say you bought SPXS, right? Because you thought the market was going to go down. What you can do is you can then place a stop loss order. And that just means, hey, if the market or stock or ETF in this case comes beneath a certain level, punch me out. That's as much pain as I can take. I don't want any more of it. And if you set that level, that's your stop loss. That's your risk. Now you can walk away from the computer and it's either going to go up or it's going to hit your stop loss. What you can then do is you can move up that stop loss. So now you're just removing more and more risk and you're increasing your profits as you move up that stop loss. So trail up your stop loss along with the trend to capture some good profits. And just briefly, in terms of market moves, the SPY right now is priced at about 402. The options chain expected move, and again, this is a little bit more advanced. We can go into this at another time or ask me about it at Weenie Trades Live. But the market expected move has SPY coming down to this 380 level by the end of September. Otherwise, if the market is going to go higher, you can look at SPY 420. So right now, SPY is priced in at about 402. The upper edge of the expected move for the month is 420. And the lower edge of the expected move, what the market is expecting, is $380 a share. So be sure to tune into Weenie Trades Live. I do very well trading in market turmoil. So if there's ever turmoil in the markets, come tune in and ask some questions and I'll be happy to help. Now let's get back to the talk. I think we have some important questions to answer. Thank you guys for having me.
Wow.
Every
Weenie,
time.
that is awesome. I love hearing your weekly updates. I really appreciate that, Weenie. Before we left, we was talking about, and there was a lot of people that was saying how they really enjoyed it. All the comments.
When Weenie comes on and does his weekly market update, Mark looks down like I do when the collection plate comes around.
I listen. I just don't follow all
so you try to ignore, you don't want to know, you don't want to give, you pass it, keep passing the plate.
Oh, no, I do listen. I do listen. I mean, it's just that, I mean, my retirement is vested in the stock market, but I'm not a trader like him. I don't have that kind of knowledge. I wouldn't attempt to do what he does or what some people do and play it and watch it every day and so forth. I have people, if you will, that do that for me.
As long as you guys, I need everybody to stay employed, work, invest, make as much money as they can, put it back into the government, because I am a government retired employee. So as long as y'all pay y'all taxes, I'll keep getting my retirement. So whatever you got to do to be contributing members of society, you keep doing it.
Well, see, John, I'm a government employee, but my retirement is tied to the stock market, though.
No,
people in my profession generally are tied into a private retirement account.
Yeah.
Because professors, when they change jobs, they very often move from state to state instead of staying in one state.
I've got a 401k. It's called Powerball, but it's still my 401k.
No, I do a little ad, a little commercial, the TIA CREF and my own 403B.
You know what? This is really good. But I was, thinking about some of the comments that was said. I said, I'm actually about to invest in the next coming weeks. Okay. Well, you really need to listen to some of his weekly updates. For every action, there's an equal and positive. Where every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay.
Well, hopefully there's a positive reaction too.
But there was something else that really was interesting to me. We was talking about racism, and Ken said in his comment, he said that he was saying that if more people that are not racist, he said if more people will speak out. So I thought that was pretty good. If more people would speak out against racism that aren't racist.
Well, you have people who
that would be awesome.
speak out, but do you still have a lot of people who go, not my problem, I'm staying out of the business of it, which I'm not saying either or is right. I prefer to think saying something is the right way to do it. I just know that I have white friends who aren't racist and they get lumped in. And one of my friends, Brad, always talks about like when he's at a bar or out somewhere and a white person says something racist and they look at him and like, you know what I mean? And he has to turn and go, no, I don't know what the F you mean, you retard. You know?
Oh my, we're definitely getting demonetized after this.
You said what?
We're definitely getting demonetized after this.
No, that was back. It has been pulled back, so we're fine. But that's also somebody responding to someone saying something racist. So I don't think that if you're taking that the wrong way, you're not listening.
As well as in the facet of in times of oppression, if you stay quiet, you take the side of the oppressor.
You're in agreement. Silence is agreement.
That's good.
If me, you, and Mark we're in a room, and this would never happen, and Weenie was sexually assaulting someone, and we just sat there and did nothing. We're in agreement with what's happening.
That's true.
Jay, you know, that brings back a memory for me, and it popped up on my Facebook feed today. This memory, I visited Sarajevo, Bosnia Herzegovina, back a few years ago, and for those old enough to remember, you know what happened back in the 90s.
I was there
With the ethnic cleansing and all that.
Yep.
And one of my tour guides just kept saying that very thing over and over again. And of course, we're getting some weeds to politics here, but that has a lot of application.
Yeah. Yep. It's a structure that revolves around prejudice, discrimination, and it's not just us. I speak about racism for Black people because if you haven't noticed, I don't have a great tan, I'm Black. Okay, but I've been to other countries and I've seen how racism in other cultures is handled. And again, like Ken was saying, and like Mark was saying, and Jay was saying, if you don't say anything against it, the narrative keeps going. That's the thing about narratives, How do narratives have a comparison with stereotypes?
Yes,
it does.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
John, what you were just saying about, and I'll go back if you don't mind, to the thing about Bosnia. And again, back in the 90s, there were two great waves of genocidal attempts. There was one in Europe with the Bosnian Muslims, and there was one in Africa, in Rwanda, between the Hutus and the Tutsis. Now, all those people in both those categories, they looked pretty much alike. They were not different races. So like in Bosnia, it had to do with, did you have a Muslim name? Did you have Muslim dress on? Or did someone just know you were Muslim? And in Rwanda, it was, look, I know that person is a Hutu. I know that person's a Tutsi. And the hatred was based on that. And it was just as real, a lot more real and a lot more visceral than problems we have had here in the past, I'll say 100 years.
Yeah, it depends on.
John, because we're talking about millions of people dying.
No, I know what you're talking. I was there. I know what you're talking about. I'm gonna say this, and then I'll gladly move it on because we don't want to make this to the racist hour. The one narrative, and it has to deal with what we're talking about, is the narrative. I didn't say this; a comedian said it, but it was what I was thinking. Black people are always told they have to get over stuff. Slavery, get over it. Civil rights, get over it. Police brutality, get over it. 9/11, never forget. Holocaust, never forget. Everything else, never forget. But with all our stuff, it's get over it. It happened a long time ago.
Makes a good point.
We're always told as a people to get over stuff. And I don't know why that is. We're always told to get over it, but we have to have remembrances for everybody else.
That's a good point. I never heard it put that way, but that's a good point.
Yeah. And then the response is, well, we gave you February. But all right, moving on.
In January 15th.
Jeez.
And now Juneteenth. So
Yeah. Oh, we've given you so much. What else do you want?
Beat it.
We gave you a month. We let you celebrate your silly little revolution or whatever you people want to call it. You know, we let you be president. What else do you want?
For you to stop stealing our dance moves.
Oh,
you got nothing to worry about here.
You know what? You say that's funny. I always laugh when I was at a party a month ago with a friend of mine. There were like 4 white people in the party. Everybody else is black, and I forgot what song was on, but everybody was dancing. And my friend said, "Isn't it messed up that the white guy is the only one on beat?" I was like, "What is happening?"
Oh.
Oh my God! But anyway,
You know,
let's change the subject.
I see that Ken said reparations.
No, they gave it to us already. Someone was president. Everything's solved now. The world is fixed. Barack Obama was president. Everything's good now.
I don't think so.
Oh my
Wow,
God!
but-
It's your birthday, Jackson. Because who is this person that keeps shouting out your birthday? Can we just say happy birthday, Jackson? Because it's really getting annoying.
Happy birthday,
That's it.
Jackson.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
yes.
How old are you about to be?
20.
Oh God, you're a baby.
Wow. Happy birthday.
I got toenails older than you.
Ew, I think you should probably cut those off. But
I don't have them on my foot. I'm just
I think you'll cut the
so
foot
why
off.
do you keep them in your house?
to ward off evil.
That'll ward off anything. Well, vampires from everything else.
Hey, wait, you know
That's
what?
like rhino horns. You know, that's what they're used for. You know.
I didn't even realize the weenie was still here because I normally cut him out after the thing. He's just sitting there. Reedy,
I saw that.
what's a narrative for you?
Yeah. How's the market doing?
You know, narratives are kind of like the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And so when I think of like narratives that we should probably cut out, it's the narratives that kind of hold us back from our goals or that maybe hurt other people.
You had to be a nerd to be a stock market trader.
You know, you know,
Well, I don't
if
know.
you're really good at, if you're a disciplined person, you can be a good trader. I'd take a disciplined person over a nerd, but yeah, I mean, back to the narratives though. I mean, I really think that a lot of people hold themselves back by the stories that they repeat in their heads over and over again. Or like for example, if somebody like did bad on a history test, then they'll think, oh, I'm bad at history, and they'll reaffirm that narrative, that story, and they'll tend to perform poorly on history tests. So your mind will pay attention to whatever you think about. So it's back in terms of narratives, don't generalize. Try to get to the objective truth and get creative.
You act on your own label. You get labeled a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not careful, you live out that label.
Well said.
Well, I mean, a lot of that's a basic maxim of criminology too.
Yeah.
I told this story
Well said.
I told this story on Lunchtime with Keone Productions on Weenie's channel. When I was a kid, I was going through a lot. I was raised in an all-black neighborhood. It was very heavily crime infested, but my mom used my grandma's address so I could go to a school, and that school was predominantly white. So even though it was the 80s, at school I got called all the names you would expect me to be called, but then at home I got called a lot of other names because I was different than everybody that looked like me. So that's a lot for a 7-year-old to process, right?
Not bad.
A psychologist told my mom that I needed to go to a special school because I would never be a contributing member of society.
Oh my goodness. Was he
And
drunk?
that advice was almost taken. Now, 20 years military service, 2 master's degrees later, imagine if that narrative would have stuck and they would have followed through with that.
Isn't that something? That
You
you
wouldn't
rose
have my
above all of that.
And a lot of people would accept that. They would say, okay, oh, the guy's got a PhD or whatever. He can't be wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm a failure.
That's just awesome.
People of authority. Yeah. You'll just listen to them blindly.
That's why I like Nike's slang of just do it. When anytime a student or someone tells me, well, I hope to do this, I said, don't hope, do it. Say, I will do this.
Just do it.
I will do this. I'm going to do this. Not I hope. Hope is you're basically wishing it happens. You know.
That's awesome. I love that. That is just absolutely awesome, Keone. You know, I know one of the narratives that I was thinking about, why is it that we say sometimes, well, when a woman has been raped, okay, well, she wanted to have what she had on.
Oh. She need to. I hate that argument. Ugh.
Now, in men's defense, the people who usually do that, us men call them knuckle draggers. Okay?
What?
We call them knuckle draggers. Knuckle draggers.
Nutcrackers.
Knuckle
draggers.
Wow, nutcrackers. Whoa, you really are coming into the defense. Good Lord, Clarence, watch out. Hold your boys, Clarence. Knuckle draggers, like cavemen, knuckle draggers. We call them because, again, we've been talking about low-hanging fruit, right? These are the people that say the barbaric or the stereotypical things. If she got raped, what was she wearing? She must have been wearing a mini skirt. She wanted it, blah, blah, blah. Those are knuckle draggers. I pay no attention to them.
I can only imagine back then in the colonial days with all that stuff they had on. Those women were raped too. Can you imagine them say, oh, it's what she had on. She lured me. Really? All this stuff she got on?
It's not my fault. She lured me.
Yes. It took me 45 minutes to get that corset off, but she wanted it.
Yeah, she wanted it.
I saw her ankles. She told me.
Hey, look, unless you think me a fly in the ointment here, we're talking about two different things, though. Mm-hmm. Now, does the woman wearing a certain thing, does that mean she wanted it? No. Okay. No. Right. But does the woman wearing a certain thing in the mind of the rapist, is that a precipitating factor in his mind? Well, sometimes it might be.
It increases the odds, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, the odds of the.
That's not saying it's her fault.
No.
Okay, I'm just saying in the mind of the offender, that might be a factor.
You got to remember, Mark is a criminologist, so he's thinking of it from the criminal mindset. But you got to remember also, most rape is not about sex. It's not sexual. A lot of rape. It's about power. A lot of them have had, and this is not all of them, trauma. They could just have a hatred of women. I've known sometimes. A lot of that's what I'm saying. It's not all the time. We're just breaking down different factors. We've known rapists who have been interviewed that have been tormented by their mother, and that's how they take it out. So there's a lot of factors. I think when people look at rape, they just think it's some sexual deviant guy lurking out there, when a lot of times that's not what it is. Not a lot of times, but sometimes that's not what it is. There's other factors going in to that happening.
Well, unfortunately, most rape is not reported, and it tends to come with people who are acquainted with each other in some way, whether it's in the family, or it's date rape, or acquaintance rape, or even marital rape. Okay, and sometimes, very often, it's not reported, and even more often than that, it's very difficult to prove because it does come down to he said, she said.
Well, this is why I also didn't like. I hated To Catch a Predator. I hated that show. And when I say that, people go, how could you hate To Catch a Predator? Because it gave this illusion that all of these men are on computers trying to get into your house and get your kids. Yes, that does happen. But most of these knuckleheads on a computer, that's where they stay. Because throughout that show, when they did the history of that show, they would try to lure in hundreds of men who would never even come or show up. And the reason I say it is because the biggest perpetrators in child molestation and child rape are family members and people to the family. Mm-hmm. But that show totally moved the narrative to where you're looking for these people that are in grandma's basement trading pictures that they're coming out to get you. Now, again, that does happen, but the majority of it is family members and people that know the family. And we totally got away with that show. And you're talking to a two-time, I don't want to say survivor, but a two-time person that happened to twice as a kid. One was the babysitter, the other was a cousin. And that's another narrative that I hate.
Well, Coney, and that's why I'm not a fan of zoning restriction laws that say sex offenders can't live here, can't live there. I'm not a fan of sex offender notification laws because it gives the idea they were based on exceptional cases where there was that pervert down the street or something like that. But it gives the idea that one, we're safe as long as the kids are in their home, and two, that most sex offenders are strangers, when that's not true. More often than not, it does take place in the home or in the home of someone the family knows and trusts. Your cases support that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's another way of who said it? I think it was Alita that said it, or maybe it was Weenie, about the thought. When you say something or hear something enough, if it's not corrected, then it becomes true. And that goes back to why that professor had me keep looking until I found someone who disagreed with me. Because if you say something, if you hear something long enough, it's true. Like what is it called? Mandela effect?
I don't know.
That's another one.
I think like the reticular activation system. If you focus on something, you just see it happen more often. So like if you like just saw a Tesla on the road and you would just realize, oh, that's a cool Tesla, you start to notice more Teslas on the road. So I that's at least my thought process behind it. The more something gets reinforced or repeated, the more it ingrains itself in your brain.
Well, the other thing with sex offenders is that very often we're something we don't know, we're not aware of, and that is a lot of sex offenders are other children. I mean, do you think people start molesting kids do you think they wait till they turn 18? No, when they're 9 and 10 and 12 to kids younger than them.
This is good because Clarence said never let your child sit on anyone's knee.
Wait, you gotta let the comment come on the thing first,
on
Lisette.
their knee. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you know what? You know what, Clarence? That's a very good one because I coach students, and there was this one child. She was so adorable, but she loves to hug. And I'm sitting there and I'm teaching, and next thing I know, I look and she runs. I'm sitting down. She runs between my legs to give me a hug, and I'm like, no, you never do that. And she was so like, because she doesn't know, she's a child. She doesn't know. And I'm like, no, you never do that.
Proximity.
And that because I'm gay. So here we go. Here comes another narrative. When we lump homosexuals in with pedophiles, because there's this narrative that gay people are just looking to get your children. Let me tell you something. A gay man
working in bathrooms and all that.
A gay man don't want your child. There is nothing your 9-year-old can do for me. Okay, not a damn thing. But that there's another narrative. That's why you had a lot of homosexual people that I didn't even realize. When you're a kid, you're not even thinking about it. We had a teacher named I don't want to say he's probably dead now. I was in 3rd grade. Mr. McMahon. He was one of the coolest teachers there. All the kids loved him. And then when we were reminiscing about our elementary school teachers in high school, we were like, wait a minute, Mr. McMahon was gay. No, he wasn't. Yes, he was. But you didn't know that in the 3rd grade.
When you're young.
We didn't have gaydar. No gaydar at that age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in our day. Nowadays, they know.
Yeah, but it's also very hurtful because that's a lot. It's in the news that, the gay agenda, they're trying to turn your kids gay. And I'm like, it just gets tiresome. It's low-hanging fruit and it's lazy.
Interesting. I got a question. Isn't all mechanics, don't all of them lie? Don't all of them just maybe clean up your cars? They know there ain't nothing wrong with your car. They just want your money. Look at what it is.
Who's they?
Mechanics. The mechanics.
Mechanics. Oh, okay.
Checks the car.
Well, one thing.
Oh, yeah, it's busted.
People rail against the internet, but that's one thing the internet has helped us with because now there are so many more truthful mechanics, all kinds of people, because you can look up stuff online. I would hate being a person that didn't know anything about cars, trying to take my car to get fixed in the 70s or something. I would have hated it.
Yes.
You don't know.
We could take advantage of you.
Oh, yeah.
And not to mention car salesmen, all of them are crooks.
Well, there's that narrative, Mark. Well, there's that narrative. Used car salesmen.
All of them.
I've known good people that sold cars. Come on.
But Mark, that's that narrative, right? All
Yeah.
used car salesmen, that slimy guy with the oversized suit that's a little
With the
old.
loud tie and all that. You
Back
know.
hair and the nasty teeth. Ugh.
Look, check this out. I remember
Come here, say.
my daughter, she wanted a used car, you know, and we saw this nice car. So he said, let's take it out. I said, okay, we took it out, we rode it, and she drove it. You know, she's a new driver, and she drive it. I took it on the highway and I put my foot in it. I mean, I drove that car. And when we got back to the store, the car salesman, the lot, whatever, the car wouldn't crank, you know. Because
No,
I
look,
was determined. I was going to find out what the problem was.
I got no problem with car salesmen. The only problem I got with car salesmen is that why are they the only
Wait a
people?
minute. Hold up. Somebody said I'm a mobile salesperson. I feel offended. Bless your heart.
No.
I'm sorry. It's not all.
Oh my goodness.
You said it was all, but now you're backtracking.
So, that you are.
Yeah,
that you
don't
are-
know.
What were you saying, Mark?
Don't
No,
backtrack.
the problem I got with car salesmen is they all think they look good on television. You know, I can't figure that out. No matter how they look, they put the kids up there. You know, hey, talk about our cars. You know,
Lisette's gonna hate me for this one. Uh-oh. Y'all ready for me to get Lisette to get on me?
Go ahead.
Here's a narrative. Come to church, it'll solve all your problems.
That won't solve all your problems.
It
It
won't.
won't solve. It's more detailed than that. And there's a lot of people sitting up in church that got problems. Okay.
I know. Me, when I used to go.
and they should be in church.
I had somebody tell me that the reason that I was full of pent up anger and rage from the way that people treated me was my fault. I said, okay, yeah, this is my last day going to church.
Oh, they told that about you? I can offer you good deal through.
Who is Veil of Shadows?
Okay.
I can give you a good deal.
Is that your
Cool.
mom?
No.
If I ever need a new car, I know who to go to.
For sure.
No,
Thank
she doesn't
you.
sell. He or she doesn't sell cars. They sell mobile sales. Does that mean mobile homes? What is mobile sales?
I don't know.
T-Mobile? I don't know. I need a little more.
T-Mobile.
What is that?
So what? Look,
Here's a narrative. This affects Weenie. All people who are into stocks or investing are rich.
Oh, totally not true.
Weenie, how many people think Weenie that you're riding around with 4 cars and a big mansion with your fiance?
There's a lot of people that thought I was like a multi-millionaire. It's like, I don't own a car. I worked 80 hours a week for 3 years. I don't even own a car. I worked 80 hours a week for 3 years. I did purchase a home last year. That was my goal. That's why I was working just all the time, 3 jobs. But yeah, no, you got to define rich. Rich is a different, level for each person. And obviously, no, not all stock market people are rich. In fact, there's probably a lot of people that are broke. They blow their accounts, or they try to trade or gamble or something like that. I guess trading is a form of gambling because there's unknown risk, but it's structured gambling when you do it for a living. But it's one of those things where you'd be surprised. Don't generalize. And yeah.
Hollywood promotes that narrative. Hollywood has hated Wall Street for decades.
Yeah,
And
with good
if
reason.
you think about some of the movies out there, they really rag on Wall Street.
Well,
There's some nasty things done.
Hollywood's painted a lot of narratives. We think all doctors are just gajillionaires, and every doctor should be driving like a Rolls Royce. And we know that's not the same. When you start learning about doctors, there's specialty doctors, general practice, and everybody's not getting $3, $4, $5 million as a doctor.
General private practice. But can we also talk about the fact that some people believe the narrative that there is no middle class? You're either broke or you're rich.
Well, I don't know if that's a narrative
We're
or
middle
just,
class.
Maybe
I don't know if
it's the
that's a
truth.
narrative or just stupid people.
Maybe just need to meet more people. I think it all comes down to your experiences. The more people that you meet, the more people you'll realize that you may have overgeneralized. And so if you've been kept in a little bubble, you're more likely to have those biases.
And
those
everybody
narratives.
has a different thought of what middle class was. When I was middle class, I considered middle class, you make too much money to get any services, but you don't make enough to live how you want to.
Yeah.
Like
Very
I would
well put.
always try to go get something. I'd be broke, and then I'd try to go get some help, and they're like, "Well, you make too much money." I'm like, "But I don't have any money."
Right.
Like
They
count for the
make you
bill.
look stupid. They won't give you nothing. Give you nothing.
Oh my God! Well, it's that time, Lisette.
Oh no, I want to stay longer.
No, it's time to go walk the dog.
Yeah,
Time to walk the dog.
Hey, Mark,
Need to be walked.
Mark
It's
is
time
on
to
it.
get my
Mark
dog
has
in.
gotten his dog trained to know when the show's over because that dog is ready to go to the bathroom when the show's supposed to be over.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
time to walk the dog.
All right, let's get our final thoughts in. Who wants to go first?
I'm going to be short today because I think I said most of what I wanted during the show. Narratives. I compared them to stereotypes. There's a whole lot. 99% of them need to go. We didn't get to talk about positive narratives today, but again, narratives can be dangerous. You tell yourself something enough, it becomes true, whether that narrative is right or wrong.
Jay?
If you're going to try to give a narrative, make sure that you have the information of the counter argument for that narrative, because if you sound stupid, you more than likely are stupid. So get the information that you need to back up that claim first, because if somebody comes to blow you out of the water and you don't have anything to back up that statement, congratulations, you've made a fool of yourself.
Interesting. Greg?
Yeah, but basically what Keone was saying, don't let something hold you back. Don't let a narrative hold you back in terms of your goals, but don't generalize. I think that the more experiences that you have, the less you'll generalize and work on your judge of other people's character, and that'll help you formulate your own opinions. Just grouping people together, that group bias, it can really just get you into trouble. Everybody's completely different, and everybody, there are some good people and there's some bad people there in certain areas. I think I've expressed my ideas.
Mark?
Everyone from Miami is a criminal.
There you go. In what way is guilty in certain crimes?
I never thought I'd say this, but fuck you, Mark. All right, go ahead. Let's.
Alita, can you say anything? If not, write it in the comment section, Alita. Alita, if you can't say anything, write it in the comment section. But you guys are funny. You guys are funny. Can you say anything, Alita?
Alita's frozen. Keep going.
Okay.
Well, she's not frozen, but she's gonna put it in the chat. If she gets it in, I'll put it up.
Okay. Well, I see there's a cute little dog over there.
That's
kitty
a cat.
puss. That's a kitty puss. Okay.
Mark is like, if y'all don't go and end this damn show, I'm leaving.
He's just coming to hang out.
I'm sorry. But yes, my thoughts is that, it's kind of like stereotypes, really, you got to survey it for yourself. That's all I got to say. I love you and thank you so very much for coming on the show. Thank you for your comments. I'm gonna give you some kisses. Thank you. And don't you wipe that off. I saw that. I love you very much. Thank you so very much. And look, y'all come back and see us again on Monday. All right. I really appreciate all your help and your kindness.
And just know, whenever you really need us, we'll be there in a flash. Literally.
Thanks for listening in.
I'll be there to flash you.